Hello and welcome to Rise and Unwind. Each week we connect with people across the country to share ideas, inspiration, and simple ways you can enjoy life right in your own neighborhood. I'm Kayla, and on this week's show we've got this.
As we age, our health needs change. And so having a primary care physician becomes more and more important as we have more birthdays.
And 90% of the human brain develops in the first 5 years of life.
All that and plenty more. So sit back, relax, and let's rise and unwind.
The Housemaid is one of those thrillers where everything looks perfect on the surface, but then it just slowly unravels. It's based on the best-selling novel that stars Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried in a story filled with secrets, power, and unexpected twists. Behind the camera is director Paul Feig, bringing a signature style to a dark, psychological ride that keeps audiences guessing. Paul, it's great to have you here with us. How are you, my friend?
Dan, I'm great. On a Monday morning, I've never been better.
All right, so this story pulls people in fast and keeps kind of flipping expectations. What was it about The Housemaid that made you want to tell this story on the screen?
Well, I mean, the book is so good. You know, the source material is there, and I'm always looking for, especially in the thriller genre, ones that have just big twists and turns that you don't see coming. And then once you get one twist, you get another twist, and then you get another twist. And, you know, Freida McFadden's book is just so good. There's a reason it's been on the bestseller list for 2 years now. And so it just seemed like it was just too delicious to not bring to the big screen.
And you've kind of described this movie as almost a Nancy Meyers movie gone wrong.
Yes.
How did that idea shape the look and the tone of this film?
Well, I mean, exactly what it sounds like. You know, I wanted Millie, you know, the character of Millie, which is played by Sweeney, to come into this world that just on the outside looks like the perfect situation. The house is all cream colored and beautiful, and everything is perfectly ordered. And it just it feels like for a girl who was living in her car just, you know, at the time, to come into this situation would be fantastic. Because it's a real, you know, the whole book is really a statement about are we making judgments on just facades, you know, and should we dig a little deeper? You don't want to distrust everybody, but at the same time, there's a lot of con people out there these days. So you want to delve a little deeper before you give the stamp of approval to anybody.
And the power dynamics in the story are just constantly shifting. How did you approach keeping the audience guessing on, I guess, who to trust?
Yeah, well, I mean, we had to kind of really hide things. So, you know, because there's such big turns, and we kind of make you root for things that later on you'll find out you really shouldn't be rooting for. And it was just really getting my cast, who are so amazing, to just play very real into these things so that you don't see what lies beneath any of them, because everyone's got a really big secret.
And Sweeney, Amanda Seyfried, they both play characters with a lot of going on beneath the surface. What stood out to you about the performances as pretty much everything starts to unravel?
Well, I mean, just the pivot that they made. Sydney had to kind of play very, you know, kind of naive and innocent until you kind of find out her backstory. And then with Amanda, we just had a blast kind of letting her just be sort of all over the place, because, you know, Nina, that character that she plays, is very unpredictable, and it keeps Millie off her game. So that was really fun. And then Brandon Sklenar playing the perfect husband. You know, he just is wonderful, and you know him from other movies where he plays this guy. But then, you know, to get to play with that was fun too. But no spoilers.
Oh, of course. This movie feels like it's kind of designed to be a social watch, like either with an audience or with a group of friends. Why do you think that's important for the story?
Oh, well, first of all, movies, we need people back in movie theaters. You know, it's fun to watch a movie by yourself on streaming, but there's nothing like that group experience. And what we've been finding with this movie is people are going in there with groups. And I mean, I've sat in the million audiences now with this movie, and they're cheering and they're screaming and they're talking back to the screen, and they're just having a great time. It's very interactive. And I think with a movie like this, with all these twists and turns, you know, because I'm a comedy guy, you know, I've done Bridesmaids and all these things. Everything I do is engineered to get a vocal response out of an audience. So if you're there with your friends, you're just going to have a great time just looking at each other and saying, oh my gosh, and, you know, and talking to the screen and just, you know, going nuts.
Paul Feig, I'm a super fan, and you are a hero to me. The Housemaid is now playing in theaters nationwide. If you're in the mood for a smart, twisty thriller that keeps the surprises coming, this one is worth seeing on the big screen. Paul, I want to thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. And everybody, please go. You're going to have a great time.
So what happens after you leave the biggest band in music history? For Paul McCartney, the end of the Beatles wasn't the end of the story. It was the start of a whole new chapter. Man on the Run from Oscar-winning director Morgan Neville takes us inside Paul's post-Beatles years, the launch of Wings, and a deeply personal decade that shaped his solo legacy. Morgan joins us today to talk about the film Paul McCartney, Man on the Run, which is now available on Prime Video. Welcome to the show, Morgan. How are you?
I'm very good. Good talking to you.
All right. The Beatles breakup is one of the most talked about moments in music history. What did you discover about Paul during that immediate aftermath that might surprise some of the fans out there?
I mean, so much. I mean, if you watch Get Back, Peter Jackson's kind of 8-hour version of the Beatles at the end, making Let It Be, you see Paul is driving everything. Songs are pouring out of him. And the question is, what happens the day that disappears? And what happens is that Paul has a true heartbreak. I mean, he's the one that wanted the Beatles more than anybody. And, he essentially is told by John Lennon that John wants a divorce from the band. And Paul, within 2 weeks, runs off to Scotland with his new wife, Linda, and their new baby, Mary, and tries to figure out what he's going to do. Is he even going to make music anymore? And so these next few years, he really struggles. And that's the part of the story I don't think people really understand, and that whole life of him trying to figure out who he was if he wasn't a Beatle.
So what was that period for him, creatively and personally, and him trying to find himself?
It was in some ways, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I mean, I think, publicly, the public was angry that because they were heartbroken. So how dare you guys break up? Why can't you just be the Beatles? What are you doing? And Paul's wife, Linda, takes a lot of flack for, did she help break up the band? Same thing happened with John and Yoko. There's just a lot of kind of anger, and the critics are saying, your music isn't as good as what the Beatles were. It was kind of an impossible shadow to escape, but that's Paul's mission. He has no choice but to try and escape it. So he tries and tries different things for years to kind of see who am I and what is my voice now as just Paul McCartney. And part of that then comes into fruition when he starts the band Wings. So it's the model he knows. I'm going to be in a band with some other people, and there's a camaraderie to it that makes me feel like I'm not alone. And through that, he finally starts doing albums like Band on the Run and becomes kind of more the Paul of who we know today.
And we also get to see some rare archival footage and a little bit of intimate family photography from Linda McCartney. How did those elements help you tell a more vulnerable side of Paul's story?
I mean, there's incredible footage we found. I mean, there's footage of Paul filming himself alone, writing songs at a piano, or with the kids, and the singing songs at Christmas time. There is a real intimacy to the footage, and that's really the main thing I wanted to convey, that this is a story kind of from the inside out. It's a story where we really kind of understand what Paul was dealing with and how he was dealing with it. And you see an insecurity in Paul that I don't think you really see publicly.
So what do you think the story tells about resilience and reinvention?
I mean, I think it's a story, and Paul's story is how not to doubt your own creative instincts. I think, the world always wants you to doubt what you do and judge what you do. And I think Paul's strength at this time is, I'm going to do whatever the hell I feel like. And that's fine. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, fine. And he does some crazy things that work and things that don't work. He releases, Mary Had a Little Lamb as a 45, which, nobody particularly likes. But then he puts out Mull of Kintyre, which becomes the biggest selling single in England in history. So they're both kind of crazy ideas. But I think he was all about embracing the crazy idea at the time. So creatively, I think it's pretty inspirational.
And for some of the lifelong Beatle fans out there, or even some of the brand new fans that may just know Paul from today, what do you hope audiences may take away after watching Man on the Run?
I mean, I know, because everybody tells me this, when you're done watching the film, you're going to go listen to a lot of music because there's a lot of music to explore. But also just an understanding that Paul's a real person dealing with real issues that are actually pretty relatable.
Morgan, I want to thank you for joining me today. Paul McCartney, Man on the Run, is available now on Prime Video. It's an intimate look at a music icon, redefining himself in real time, and it's a must-watch for any music fan. Morgan Neville, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Great talking to you.
Some stories don't fade with time, especially when they involve trust, friendship, and betrayal. The new 3-part Hulu docuseries, Friends Like These, The Murder of Skyler Neese, revisits the 2012 disappearance of a West Virginia teenager and the shocking truth that followed. It's a story told through social media, personal interviews, and voices closest to the case. So joining us this morning are director Claire Titley and former FBI agent and polygraph examiner, Dr. Rob Ambrosini. Thank you two for being here. How are you?
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
All right, Claire, what stood out to you about this case and what made you feel like it needed to be revisited now, more than a decade later?
I think one of the things that made me that was so kind of shocking about this case when I first kind of looked at it was the fact that it's 2012 and it's quite a unique era in a way for social media, because it was that era where social media was new. It was kind of a new frontier. It was the kind of Wild West though as well. And teenagers were experimenting with it. They were just putting their entire lives online. They didn't have the hindsight that we have now about kind of, what could possibly go wrong. But also it was an era where adults weren't really looking at social media. So nobody was kind of checking up on them. There were no sort of checks and balances. And that makes that generation of teenagers at that kind of time particularly unique. They're almost like the guinea pigs of social media. And
the series used Skyler's own words and social media posts that you said. How did that storytelling change the ways this story unfolds for viewers?
I think it was really important to us to try and give Skyler a voice. We didn't want her to just be a kind of a plot point in a true crime, where she's just the kind of victim and has no voice. We really wanted her to have agency in telling her own story, which is harder than it sounds, obviously when she's gone. But she left behind this incredible sort of archive of tweets, of digital messages, but also her own writing as well. So we worked very closely with her parents to make sure that we could just bring her voice kind of front and center, and that she could at least be a part of telling this story from the inside out. So we interview her friends as well, quite comprehensively, so that we can hear this story from the 16-year-old perspective, including Skyler herself.
And Dr. Ambrosini, you spent 24 years with the FBI. You've conducted thousands of polygraph exams. When you look at this case, what role did interviewing and behavioral analysis play in getting the truth?
Well, interviewing really played a significant role. And long before I became involved in the case, the two young girls, they were interviewed by case agents, state troopers, local police investigators. And during that process, you kind of started seeing this evolution of what really should be fact, right? When things are fact, it doesn't change, right? The truth is the truth, and it's always going to be the truth. But there were indications during these interviews that really did result in kind of like this evolution of their story. And of course, when that happens, the logical investigation is, why is this person changing that story, right? So this case is kind of about the behavior that's exhibited, the ideation, what's going on, what are they thinking, and how are they communicating? And that really speaks to the social media that you have here, which again was kind of in its infancy stage, if you will, compared to what it is now. So really, a lot of it did come down to the really significant interviews that the investigators were doing.
And one of the most unsettling aspects is how normal these friendships appeared on the surface. How does this case reveal about the hidden conflict, especially among teenagers?
I think what we really wanted to do with this series was kind of remind people what it's like to be 16. It's very easy to forget when you become an adult, and put that behind you. But about the fact that when you are that age, your brain behaves in such a way that your friends become much more important than your parents, than your family. Everything is very heightened. Your reasoning is off, if you like. Your idea of consequences, is very different to that of an adult. And when you have that combined with social media that is completely I say unregulated, but unwatched by anybody else, that's where the kind of combination was kind of so so dangerous, really, I think, particularly for that generation who didn't have the hindsight that we have now.
And Claire, after someone watches all 3 episodes, what do you hope stays with them?
I hope people do reflect on their own use of sort of social media, on their children, on their family as well, and remember what it's like to be that age. But also, I hope that they come away from this feeling like they know Skyler, and she would have turned 30 just a few weeks ago, so that's a life that she didn't have. And she should have gone to college. She wanted to be a lawyer. There's all this life that didn't happen. And I'd love for people to come away knowing and remembering Skyler as she was.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Friends Like These, The Murder of Skyler Neese, with all 3 episodes available to stream now on Hulu. I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What if you could experience Elvis in a way you've never seen or heard before? A new cinematic event from director Baz Luhrmann brings rare footage, restored performances, and unheard recordings together in something that's not quite a documentary and not just a concert film. It's called Epic, Elvis Presley in Concert. Baz Luhrmann joins us now to talk about his new big screen experience. Baz, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, Dan, and I love the way you described it as a cinematic event, because people are having trouble to sort of say what it is. That's what it is. This weekend, 1,900 screens all over the US. Get out and have a cinematic event, because that's what we tried to do. That's what Elvis is.
And during the making of Elvis, you went searching for rumored lost concert footage, and actually found dozens of boxes that hadn't been seen in decades. What did that discovery like for you?
Oh my God! Literally, we thought we'd find a reel, and we went down to these salt mines in Kansas City where they stored negative. Bang! There's 65 boxes. And 1635, some 8mm, and Peter Jackson helps us bring it back to us to a level of quality. I mean, just get to the biggest screen you can in your town. It's in every town this weekend. Just get out there and see it, because it is actually, I've seen it enough now. People applaud during it, they dance during it. This is a movie you can really bother the other patrons, bother them with your noise and your energy, because that's what it's for.
And this isn't simply a restored concert film. You described it as almost a cinematic poem. How did you approach shaping Elvis's life story through this dreamlike concert experience?
Well, when I was working with my creative partner in this, John O'Redman, we found this one box, and in it, Elvis is just recorded, unguarded, telling you about his life story. And we said, no talking heads in this. Let's just have Elvis come to you in a dream and tell you his story really unrestricted, and music and sing along and concert moments, and he rocks out in it. Now sonically it's in 5/1. Everyone just says it sounds like it was recorded today, and the audiences are reacting like that. This is the concert, the world tour that Elvis never actually had. He dreamed of having one. He never got outside the US. As we're speaking, he's in 5,000 screens all around the world right now.
And for audiences who think they already kind of know Elvis or absolutely loved your film from 2022, what makes Epic a completely different experience on the big screen?
I go on YouTube and just see what fans are saying. They'll tell you. They're going like, I thought I knew him, and now, but it's his humor. He's so goofy. He's so disarming. And then just you see him creating the music. Like you see him take a song like Bridge Over Troubled Water, Simon and Garfunkel, and turn it into this like gospel powerhouse song. And, he's so unpredictable. And I think people are, even hardcore fans are going like, one guy said, he said it beautifully. He said, this is the film that Elvis always dreamed of making, but 50 years after his death, he's finally in it.
Baz, I want to thank you for joining me today. Epic Elvis Presley in Concert is in theaters now. You can find showtimes and tickets at your local theater and experience Elvis like never before. Baz, it's been a pleasure to have you on here, my friend.
Yes, my man. You're cool.
A lot of parents worry about whether their kids are really ready for school. But what if the bigger question is how they're being taught in the first place? Early childhood is when so much development happens, and experts say a more personalized approach can make a big difference. So joining us today is Dr. Lauren LaQuasto, Chief Academic Officer at the Goddard School, to break down how this works and what it means for our families. Welcome, Dr. LaQuasto. How are you?
I'm doing well. Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, so why is it so important for preschools to take a more personalized approach with younger children?
So Dan, it's not just important, I would say it's critical. Young children develop at very different paces and at different times. And therefore, it's important that we meet the child exactly where they are, personalized and customized to the needs of the child. If the child, isn't learning the way we teach, we have to teach the way that they learn. And 90% of the human brain develops in the first 5 years of life. So we have this critical time period to maximize development, which maximizes the child's long-term potential.
And you talk about inquiry-based learning. What does it actually look like day to day, and how is it tailored to each child?
That's a great question. It's what you do for a living. It's asking questions. We ask questions as adults all the time. We ask Google, ChatGPT, each other, Alexa. Now, times that by 4, and welcome to the world of young children. They're curious about everything, and they're constantly asking questions. Inquiry-based learning is the hallmark of Wonder of Learning, which is the educational program inside every Goddard school. Rather than having preset themes and topics that we force upon children, instead we focus on what is the child curious about, and we build the learning from that, encouraging children to look in books, to explore hands-on learning activities, to work with each other and their teacher, to build their understanding. One question leads to the next, one discovery sparks another, and that power of a question unlocks this very busy, scientific, hands-on classroom, which is fun for children and joyful, and they see themselves as a capable, confident, and competent learner.
And for parents at home, what are some simple ways to bring that kind of learning into everyday routines?
They can do it quite easily in everyday routines. Have conversations with your child where you lead with open-ended questions. Ask your child what they see or what they heard or what they think is happening, what they're curious about. When young children ask you questions, rather than simply respond, consider the response of let's find out together. And the word together is so important because you're inviting yourself to share in the learning with your child. And then you can read books together, you can experiment together, build things, cook together, etc. And as you're doing that, you're learning alongside your child. And as they're having moments of discovery, you too as an adult are going to have moments of discovery. And the child can see that learning is fun for both adults and for children, and that their parent is that trusted guide along their educational journey who's learning with them. And there may be moments where the child feels like perhaps they're smarter in that given moment because they knew something, which is wonderful. That confidence is so important because then the child trusts themselves to be able to learn, to be able to understand information, and they trust their parent to be their guide along that way.
And as we get towards the end of the school year, what are some of the common challenges that families with preschoolers are dealing with, and how can this approach help kids stay engaged and confident?
The big umbrella of challenge for parents of young families is change and transition. Young children do not do well with changes to their routine. And the reason is because young children take a long time to truly understand a sense of time. It happens in middle elementary school. So young children rely upon knowing exactly what comes next. It's why they like routine and schedule so much. In comes the summer and routine is all shot. So instead, what parents can do is prepare their child for changes, such as a grandparent visiting or a vacation, by asking questions and sparking curiosity. What do you think we should do when grandma comes to visit? What do you think we're going to see when we go visit our uncle? What's going to be different about where we sleep when we go stay in the cabin in the mountains? And now the child is less anxious about the change, and they're more excited about what's to come from a learning perspective. So we can actually use curiosity, inquiry-based learning, to help the child adjust to change and transition, which not only helps them socially and emotionally, it creates a fun learning experience.
Dr. LaQuasto, I really want to thank you for joining me today. Where can we go for more information on this?
So your viewers can certainly visit one of the 15 schools in the greater Raleigh-Durham school, in the greater Raleigh-Durham community, any Goddard school there. But you can also visit our website, goddardschool.com, and there you're going to learn more about inquiry-based learning, how we deliver that through Wonder of Learning, our educational program, but also a wide variety of resources for parents, videos, articles, blogs, on everything related to early childhood education. So goddardschool.com.
I really want to thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Do you have a doctor you check in with regularly? Or are you more of a wait till something's wrong type of person? A lot of people take that approach, but it could actually make things harder and even more expensive over time. Having a go-to primary care doctor can make a big difference, especially as we're getting older. Joining us now is Dr. Rhonda Randall, Chief Medical Officer at United Healthcare. Welcome to the show, Dr. Randall. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. Thank you for having me back.
It's great to have you. I like to find out ways that we could keep ourselves healthy in the long run. Why does having a primary care doctor matter more as we are getting older?
Well, it's actually proven that people who have a primary care physician are more likely to stay healthy and spend less over the course of time. And you're absolutely right. As we age, our health needs change. And so having a primary care physician becomes more and more important as we have more birthdays. This is a physician who understands you well, knows you best, and understands your whole health history over time. They're looking at your whole person, not just your physical health, but your emotional and social well-being. So helping you stay healthy and manage those chronic conditions as they arise. And most importantly, coordinating your care.
And a lot of people just go to the doctor only when something starts feeling a little off. What are they missing by not having that ongoing relationship?
Yeah, we can get in that habit when we're young and healthy, but even people who are young and healthy know how much easier it is to get in and get an appointment when you're not feeling well if you already have an established relationship with that physician. But as we age, those regular PCP visits aren't just about treating illness. They're about preventing problems before they arise. So I'm talking about things like screening for chronic conditions, screening for cancer, adult immunizations, and that full health history. So they're not just treating you for when you're sick. They're able to spot subtle changes in your health early, and that can lead to earlier treatment, a better outcome, and a lower out-of-pocket cost for you, which is something we often forget about.
And when somebody is dealing with like multiple conditions or multiple medications, how does a primary care doctor help keep everything on track?
This is important because seniors have often multiple chronic conditions. Most seniors have at least one. I'm talking about things like high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, or chronic lung conditions, for example. So they're helping manage your medications, understanding changes in your health needs. If you need to see a specialist, they're making sure that they're all working together and not just siloed in regard to your care. And that kind of coordination is so important. It helps avoid conflicting advice that can be stressful for patients and caregivers. It helps avoid duplicative tests, which happen more often than we realize in the healthcare system. So that PCP can help you get the right care at the right place at the right time, which helps both your health as well as your budget.
And if somebody is watching and they realize they don't have a primary care doctor, what's a simple way to just get them started?
Start by thinking about what's important to you. Is it distance from your home, someone who's in your health plan's network, referrals from people you know and trust? Your health plan's a great place to get started with that, whether it's on their website, a digital app, or by calling the customer service number. They can help you find a primary care physician that fits all of your needs. And get ready for that first appointment by bringing your health history, a comprehensive list of all of your medications, and establishing that trusted point of contact for your health. It's about building a relationship before serious issues arise.
Dr. Randall, I want to thank you for coming here and helping us get us PCP ready. Where can we go if we want some more information?
You can go to uhcmedicarehealthplans.com.
Thanks for joining us today, my friend.
Thank you. Be well.
That's going to do it for Rise and Unwind. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to learn more about the show, visit our website at riseunwindtv.com. And for behind-the-scene moments and celebrity interviews, be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Rise Unwind. You can also find our full episodes on YouTube under the same name, Rise Unwind. Until next week, I'm Kayla, and thanks for spending a little bit of time with us here on Rise and Unwind.